Hiya. Hope you're doing well. I am here to do yet another video, and this will probably be a short and sweet one. I try to have some videos that are like, around the 10-minute mark because my videos have been kind of crashing through the 30-minute mark, and I want to keep it, I want to have at least some videos where, they're short and sweet and get the hell out. That's what she said, right? Sorry, I know it's a cheap old joke. But I'm a cheap old man, and I'm going to be talking about another cheap old man today, so it makes sense. By the way, I wanted to interject here really quickly and do shameless, horrific self promotion. But a number of you were telling me during my live stream that you wanted to read my top 100 comedies list that I started literally a year and a half ago. There was like a week, 18 months ago, there was a week where I was going to write my 100 best comedies list as I see it. And I wrote the first 75 and then I forgot about it. And then literally for the last 18 months, I've had 25 more to write and I haven't done it. Well, a couple of you guys asked me to finish it and I did. It's done. It's posted. It's out there. It's live. It's on my website. So if you'd like to watch that, I would be humbled if you did. It's my 100 greatest comedies, according to nobody but me. So I hope you read it. I will link to it. Um, and yeah, let me know what you think. I don't care if you disagree. I'd still like to hear what you think. Obviously, when you do a list like that, you're going to leave things out that people think that should be included. But these are just what I feel are my top 100 comedies. Nothing more, nothing less. And as I always do on most of my videos, I know it's about music, but I'll take a minute to just show. And this is why my videos run past 30 minutes, by the way. I can't shut up. I'm talking about everything, but I got a few movies today, and I like to show off the movies I get because I know people who love music also love movies. These just came in the mail in the last hour, and I wanted to show them real quickly. I got The Fugitive on 4K. Super stoked about this. What a great movie. Love this movie, and it just came out on 4K. It's got the old slipcase treatment. I'm putting this in my big stack of movies you can see behind me. Going to be doing some serious movie watching this week. I do have this week of Thanksgiving off, so I'm going to be doing much watching. Anyway, The Fugitive came today, and then the 4K Criterion release of this, Mean Streets. Yes. Admittedly, this is not my favorite Scorsese movie. I've never had an undying love for this movie. I do think it's really good. I think this is early Scorsese trying to find his footing, and you get Harvey Keitel and Robert De Niro. I mean, it's by no means a bad movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it's got all kinds of new bonus features on it. And it's 4K. I mean, come on. What's not to love about this? So I'll definitely be cracking this open. And my attitudes change over the years. I've watched Mean Streets several times in my life, and I haven't watched it recently. So maybe now, now that I'm at the point I am in my life, and now that I've got a 4K screen to watch this 4K disc on, maybe it'll mean something differently to me. You have certain life experiences, and music and movies mean something different. They might not mean what they used to mean to you. Maybe they'll mean less. Maybe they'll mean more. I'm hoping this will mean more. Anyway, I got these two movies today, and I'm excited. But this is what I'm talking about today. Vince Clarke, Sound of Silence. I think that's the name of it, right? Songs of Silence. Sorry, Songs of Silence. And actually, as I was writing finishing off my top 100 comedy list, I listened to this a few times back to back yesterday, and I listened to it over the weekend, and I really enjoy it. First of all, let me start. I'm just a huge fan of Vince Clarke. I think he's led a very interesting, fascinating life. He's had a really great career. He's just one of those guys that is really endlessly. It's fun to endlessly talk about this guy. He's had his hands in a lot of musical pies, and it's fun to think about what he's done. And I generally own most of what he's done over the years, even his remixes. I really enjoy what he does. And as I always say on my channel, I'm not going to give you origin stories. If you're here watching this video, you already know who this man is. You know what bands he's a part of, he's been a part of. You already know these things. If you don't, go look him up. I'm not going to hold your hand through that beginning origin story phase. I'm talking about this album. This video is geared toward people who know and deeply respect Vince Clarke and have loved him for a long time. That's what this video is aimed for. Vince Clarke is, I mean, if you don't know Vince Clarke, I'd be highly surprised. You haven't been paying very close attention if you don't know who he is. But yeah, in the very off rare chance that you don't know who he is, go look him up and then come back to this video. This is a really cool record. Aesthetically, it's not a lot to look at. You get this, you get this, you get a plain inner sleeve. It is a polyline inner, so that's nice. It's pressed on mute. Mute always does a bang up job. Plain black labels. So there's not a lot to see, but I think that's the point. This is a very minimalist experience, and we don't really know Vince Clarke for being minimal, do we? Absolutely not. Vince Clarke is known for his big sounds, his big production, his his scary ability to write incredibly catchy melodies. That's how we know this guy. This album is unlike anything he's ever done, and I think it should be celebrated because of that. Songs of Silence really mainly is a very ambient, even droney affair. And I mean droney and drone, like, drone type music. I don't mean drone negatively. It's not the kind of album that you would expect from this man. It's the sound of a man who's really fascinated with electronics. That's what I hear. Sorry for the glare. I still have the shrink wrap on it just to protect it. But yeah, that's what I hear. I hear a man who wants to break out of what he normally does and make a very personal album. Perhaps music that means a lot to him, but he hasn't been able to release under, an Erasure album or even a Depeche Mode album or anything that he's been involved with. And I like it. I listened to it. I've listened to it 3 times already. It's pretty brief, not a long album. We're talking 40 minutes, maybe closer to 45. It's not a double album. It's got 10 tracks, and each song is probably on average 4 minutes long. In fact, if I had anything negative to say about, not even negative, but if I had any constructive criticism for it, I would say that I wish some of the songs were longer. Ambient music, I think, needs a lot of time to breathe, but that's not his message. He has 10 tracks and he's out. That's kind of what we know. If there's anything that we know Vince Clarke for, it's that. So in that way, it's very in line with what Vince Clarke has given us over the years. 10 songs and out. That's what he does. If I were to compare this sound to anything he's ever done before, it might be that self-titled Erasure album that came out in, what was it, 1995? In my opinion, is his greatest album, or Erasure's greatest album. Those of you who are interested in that, I'll link to. I did a video on Erasure albums. I ranked them, and then I also wrote a written piece on my website for that. I can link to that if you haven't seen that. Maybe you'd be interested in reading that. But if I had to compare this to anything, any Erasure album, or anything he's ever done, period, yeah, it would be that self-titled Erasure album. There's just a lot of ambient noises, a lot of drone noises, even some classical moments. I heard some classical movements going on with this record. It's a very inward, personal, even maybe claustrophobic type sounding album. For Vince Clarke to do that, I think is really cool. Even at this age, he's been around for over 40 years making music, and he's still challenging himself. And I think he should be applauded for that. This is a really good album. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for me to listen to it 3 times in under a week. I think there's a lot going on here, and that it requires repeated listening. So yeah, I think I don't know that you even need to be an Erasure or Depeche Mode or whatever fan to really enjoy what this album offers. In fact, I would think that if you're a Brian Eno fan, or even, anything that comes out in the ambient drone genre, I would highly recommend this. Forget about what your preconceptions are about this man and what he's done in the past. I think if you like experimental electronic music, you're going to very much enjoy this. I wouldn't say it's purely ambient. There's some beats going on. There are a couple songs with some beats. They're very they're deep in the mix. Don't think erasure type beats. That's not what you're getting here. The beats are very kind of they're muffled and almost in the background. You still get them, but you know, this album when it comes to the beats is much more deep chord or Rod Modell style than Erasure, if you get my drift. If you know who deep chord is, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's more that. And that is a good thing. When I talk about deep chord, that's a positive thing. Just emotional, introspective, heart on the sleeve type music here. Vince Clarke has produced some of the most interesting music of his life, I think, in the last several years. That solo album he did with Martin Gore about a decade ago, I thought was excellent. Sort of unusual for the typical stuff he does. And you can just tack this on to that. I feel like anybody who is a general fan of what Vince Clarke does will pick up this album. And my opinion of this is I really like it. I was very surprised at its depth. This guy obviously has a lot to say, and he's lived a very long life. And he's got, look up an interview with Vince Clarke if you can. This man's got a great sense of humor, man. He's a really easy guy to like. I just think in the last 40 years, there's a dozen electronic music producers that you could put up on the Mount Rushmore of electronic producers, and Vince Clarke would absolutely be on it. He's had a fascinating career, and this is his latest release, and I think it's more different than anything he's ever done. And in a career that spans over 4 decades, that's saying a lot. So I highly recommend this. Pick this up. This is on Mute Records, Songs of Silence, Vince Clarke. And I'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.